destroy thousands of jobs. In contrast, Spain, where tourism generates some 12% of GDP, the leadership is welcoming foreign travellers.
As you know, on the 1st of July, foreign tourists will return, and it is essential that transport is governed by health safety protocols that are harmonized and agreed by all member states.
Pope Francis is cautioning people in countries emerging from coronavirus lockdowns to keep following authorities' rules for COVID-19 containment.
Your small presence in the square is a sign that in Italy the acute phase of the epidemic is over, but be careful. Don't cry victory, don't cry victory too soon.
Beyond Europe and in Saudi Arabia, coronavirus cases have surpassed 100,000, with over 3,000 in the past 24 hours. Around 70% of all cases have thankfully recovered. And Brazil continues to be a hot spot, with both pro- and anti-government protests. On the day, cumulative data on COVID-19 has been wiped from an official website. Much criticised President Bolsonaro claims the figures are being manipulated. Brazil has the world's second highest number of cases and recently more new deaths than any other nation. Evelyn Laverick, Euronews.
Well, let's find out a little bit more about the quarantine rules in the UK that are changing from today. Some industries have warned that they will be severely impacted by the new rules. Let's go to London Heathrow Airport, where our reporter Angela Barnes is there for us. Angela, morning to you. Explain to us, if you can, a little bit more about the rules, because pretty much everyone who arrives in the UK from abroad, including UK nationals, will have to quarantine. There are a few exceptions. What are the rules and who's exempt?
That's right. Good morning, Rosie. Well, so from today, that's it. Well, I'm at Heathrow, as you said, and there's very few planes coming and going this morning. But for those passengers who are arriving, whether it's by air, by ferry or by train, they'll have to quarantine from today for 14 days. Now, this will have a devastating impact on many industries, including the airline industry that's already on its knees. But passengers, so they'll be required to fill out a form. And if they don't, it will cost them £100, a fine if they don't. And that's to provide their address, their contact details, so that police can go and check to make sure that people are sticking with those quarantine rules. Now, there'll also be a fine of up to £1,000 for people who break those quarantine rules. Now, there are groups who are exempt, including agricultural workers who will have to self-isolate when they arrive at their destination. Also, those arriving from the Republic of Ireland, the Isle of Man and the Channel Islands are also exempt, and medical and care workers providing essential care. Now, these measures will be in place, well, the Home Secretary says they're looking at travel corridors to try and ease that. But for now, the measures will not be reviewed for another 3 weeks. So that takes us up to the 29th of June.
So effectively, when you arrive at the UK, you've got to provide an address where you'll be self-isolating, and the police or some authorities could come and check to see if you're actually at the residence.
Exactly, that's right.
Some critics are saying that why now? If quarantine was going to be an essential measure to try and help control the virus, why is it being put in place at this point rather than a few weeks ago? What's the government's justification for the timeline that they're using?
Well, the government says they're just trying to follow scientific advice, but of course that's been hugely criticised by many people across the airline industry, who says this is too little too late and it's really going to devastate the aviation industry. Well, earlier I spoke to an independent analyst, Alex Macheras, and here's what he had to say.
Throughout this pandemic, almost 20 million people have returned back to the UK with no checks, no measures and no quarantine. So to be implementing a measure now when there are very few people travelling, but also now almost half a year into a global health emergency with the UK already becoming the coronavirus hotspot, is questionable, and this is why it has been labelled as an irrational decision by many senior figures across the aviation industry, because they understand the damage this will do to Britain's air travel sector, with passengers simply choosing not to book flights because of the uncertainty and with no clear timeline as to how long these measures will last.
So a lot of pressure on the government to make a U-turn, but as I said, as it stands, these measures won't be reviewed for another 3 weeks.
Angela Barnes, thank you very much, our reporter there at Heathrow Airport. Still to come here on the programme, skiers in Austria are getting back to the slopes. We'll visit a socially distanced ski resort in the Alps after the break.
Jump through space with unique innovation born in Japan.
How do you like a new body? A robot body.
How nice.
Through teleexistence technology, you can go anywhere. Even if you are not there, it's like experiencing it firsthand. It's possible to be here and still do your work on a space station.
I believe that with this teleexistence innovation, we can change society as well as how we live and work.
So many young Japanese visionaries are determined to change the world. Passion driving technology for a better world. Find your Japan.
Your top stories coming up shortly on Good Morning Europe.
This Monday on Euronews.
Take a closer look at the world of